annals of film history. When Extraction dominated the Netflix charts all over the globe in 2020, it was obvious they were going to come out with a sequel. What wasn't obvious was that Extraction 2 would be just as much enjoyable as its predecessor. I personally love seeing such movies succeed because sometimes we just want to sit back and relax while watching a badass action flick. A lot of that praise goes to Chris Hemsworth, who's ruthless as ever, playing the role of Tyler Rake. Take the train scene for example. Tyler goes absolutely bonkers here. Bro shoots down some choppers, then takes a break by beating the daylights out of some goons, and then heads back up to shoot down another chopper. Chris Hemsworth really did himself a favour because I'm sure he would have wanted the world to remember him as a great actor, not just as the guy who played Thor. There are very few cases where I don't criticise the filmmakers for curating a fight scene involving a normal woman taking on strong men with implausible ease. One such exception is the stairway fight scene in 2017's Atomic Blonde. Charlize Theron genuinely put in a lot of effort to train for the role, and it shows in the way she pulls off those punches and kicks as Lorraine Broughton. Also, if we are being honest here, that bearded dude didn't look particularly strong. He kind of reminded me of Jean Ralphio from Parks and Recreation. The fight wasn't just about the physical blows though, it focused more on technique, and that's exactly why Lorraine came out on top. She managed to stab the tough dude with his own knife and used the stairway momentum to her advantage as well. See, if you present a scene accurately, no one's going to be complaining about it. After a disappointing string of Predator movies, the world finally got to enjoy something worthwhile in 2022's Prey. I totally loved the primitive Predator's design, and the final battle was the perfect way to end the film. Well, maybe apart from a couple of plot armor moments for Naru. She is definitely a badass though, but there's no way she could survive even half a hit from the same dude that took down a freaking bear with one blow. Anyway, the overall execution of the scene was perfectly shot, and the direction truly made it feel like a high-stakes encounter. Take note, Shane Black, this is how you carry a franchise, not whatever the heck 2018's The Predator was supposed to be. I know there are some internet dorks that tried to compare Prey to the OG Predator film, but come on now, no one's ever gonna match Arnold's swag from that film, or even his biceps for that matter. It's been a while, but Denzel Washington finally makes it back to a TV Regent video after what you might call a brief hiatus. Yeah, he's been the star of quite a few videos here, so it only makes sense to have him open up the top 20 with an unforgettable scene from The Equalizer. The encounter with the Russian gang was intense for a wide variety of reasons, the most insane one being the fact that McCall reduced all of them to a mere number, 16 seconds. Well, he ended up taking a little more than that to finish them off, but I think we can grant him the buffer, right? Now, fight scenes might be pretty common. What really stuck with me was the way he sent off the mob boss by explaining how he was gonna die. I mean, that's as cold as a 21 Savage verse.
28 minus 9, 19. About 30 seconds, body's gonna shut down, and you're gonna suffocate.
How old are you?
27, 1,000. 28, 1,000.
I'm sorry.
Stansfield,
At your service.
this is from Matilda.
Shit.
There may be a lot of ways to say goodbye, but this one right here has got to be one of the best screw you, you're coming with me moments I've ever seen in the movies. 1994's Leon the Professional was a perfect mix of action and emotion that's maintained its legacy even almost 30 years since its release. We all might know and love Jean Reno for his roles in films like Pink Panther, but Leon will always remain his most memorable character, at least for global audiences anyway. His final encounter with Stansfield was also a perfect farewell via the grenade explosion that took them both down. To be fair, Stansfield did play dirty, so he did deserve to go this way. I guess karma turned out to be the main winner here. Honestly though, bro should have probably just focused on helping Batman fight crime in Gotham City. I've always been a fan of the classics, and I'll do whatever I can to include them in my videos. For this one, I'm going all the way back to 1966 when the world got to see Clint Eastwood cement his status as a legendary actor with the good, the bad, and the ugly. The final duel naturally comes to mind when we think of badass scenes, and what stands out even further is the fact that Sergio Leone managed to draw it out for as long as he did while still keeping the audiences on their feet. I mean, can you imagine trying to tell someone that there's a scene in this movie where three men stare at each other for 5 minutes and it's awesome? Well, it's true, and you should watch the movie yourself to believe it. To top things off, the nameless man even shoots his opponent's hat into his grave. This guy was the OG Giga Chad before it was even a thing.
You see, in this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns, and those who dig. You dig.
It's bloody! It's all ours, bloody!
It doesn't matter whether your favourite James Bond is Sean Connery, Roger Moore, Pierce Brosnan, or Daniel Craig. He'll always be an ace when it comes to chase scenes. For entry number 17, I'm picking the Istanbul sequence from 2012's Skyfall simply because of the way it was shot. The scene's got pretty much everything you'd expect from a standard Hollywood chase: cars crashing into each other, bikes racing each other across rooftops, and of course, the big finale where the hero does some daredevil stunt. In this case, it's when James Bond hops off his bike straight on top of a moving train while Moneypenny just watches on in awe. Even with the extraction scene, I suppose this is the kind of stuff badass dudes really like. On a side note, watching all the epic scenery in this clip makes me want to book my next vacation to Istanbul.
I win. What do you say to that?
It's a waste of good scotch.
Latest thing from Q Branch. Called a radio.
Focus on when I'm including them in my lists. However, for this one, the sole credit goes to the director, who's none other than Mr. Christopher Nolan. Now, I understand that Tenet might be his most...
This is blasphemy. This is madness.
This is Sparta!
Hey, Remember Gerard Butler? Yeah, he's the super ripped dude from 300 who just kind of vanished after that. It's actually a shame because I totally loved him as King Leonidas, as did a lot of single moms at the time. Now, I don't know about you, but 300 was my initiation into the filmography of Zack Snyder, which actually helped me understand his style for movies like Watchmen and the DC flicks. Okay, back to 300 now. While the film has its fair share of brutal fights and badass moments, the one standing out the most is when Leonidas kicks the messenger of Xerxes into the Wall of Death, or whatever it's supposed to be called. How can I not include this scene? It's when we get the iconic "This is Sparta" line, which was delivered with so much intensity that it made me want to go out there and fight a war of my own.
Spartans! What is your profession?
Spartans! Ready your breakfast and eat hearty. But tonight, we dine in hell!
Get this straight, you corno fuck. You tell your queer ass bosses up north they ain't never gonna find them civil rightsers down here. Wake up! And you get this straight, kicker. Don't you go mistaking me for some whole other body.
There are a lot of greats when it comes to American actors. Obvious choices would include Marlon Brando, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro and Jack Nicholson, but Gene Hackman is a name that also deserves that same level of respect. He's proven it time and time again in an impressive range of films that includes 1978's Superman and 1992's Unforgiven. One forgotten gem though is Mississippi Burning, where Hackman plays FBI agent Rupert Anderson, who's based on the real-life John Proctor. Now, leading a life like this would definitely make you an alpha male, but sometimes you need to prove your point, and that's exactly what Rupert does when he has his chat with the Klansman. Bro really showed he had balls of steel by grabbing onto that poor dude's lemons without hesitation.
You got your brains in your d*** if you think we're just gonna fade away. We're gonna be here till this thing's finished.
Leave it to an expert to be able to go from a smile to a threat within 2 business seconds.
Make no mistake about it, Deputy. I'll cut your fucking head clear off and not give a shit how it reads in the report sheet.
Yo.
Yo, homie, is that my briefcase?
Your briefcase? Yeah, it is. Why, you want it back?
Mr. Cruz makes yet another appearance as I'm bringing up a film that's finally getting some well-deserved recognition. 2004's Collateral, in my opinion, is one of the best films that Tom Cruise has acted in, probably along with Eyes Wide Shut. It shouldn't come as a surprise though, considering it was directed by Michael Mann, the same dude who gave us 1995's Heat. Now, I'd love to talk to you about the plot of Collateral, but I want you to watch it for yourselves and form your own opinion. For now, let's just talk about one scene in particular where Vincent shoots down a couple of wannabe thugs for trying to steal his briefcase. It's a typical sequence where the badass shoots down his opponents to take his stuff back. What puts it so high on this list is the speed with which he completes his task. You can literally miss the moment with the blink of an eye, and that's exactly how deadly Vincent is.
He fell from up there on the mother cab. Oh, shit. I think he's dead. Good guess. You killed him?
No, I shot him. Bullets in the fall killed him.
Said it before, and I'll say it as many times as I have to. Asian films know how to display genuine fight scenes. I've shown love to lots of films in my videos, but when it comes to a good old hand-to-hand combat sequence, there aren't many scenes that match the intensity of the kitchen fight in Raid 2. Seeing Rama and the assassin battle their guts out in such gruesome fashion really makes you wonder how much effort really goes into shooting such fight scenes. It's not just the choreography here, the camera angles and various perspectives enhance the brutality of a scene that goes on for almost 7 minutes, and yet keeps us engaged for every single second. It looks so realistic that at one point I was genuinely scared for the actor's health and safety. Honestly, I feel like just fighting at 10% of this capacity would put you in an elite league. If we're talking about uber successful film franchises, the Lord of the Rings trilogy will always find its way into the conversation. It was the kind of grand scale filmmaking that most studios were scared to pursue because of the costs that came along with it. In a way, you could say that LOTR inspired the mass production of big budget blockbusters that became a regular thing in the MCU era. Now that we're in my top 10, I want to include something spectacular. So I've gone with Boromir's death. Well, not the death in itself, but everything that happens around it. The epic battle against Lurtz and his warriors was one aspect, and Aragorn's last-minute victory despite the Black Attack had everyone hyped in the cinema halls back in 2001. Here's a fun piece of film trivia. The actor playing Lurtz had trouble seeing through his makeup, and Viggo Mortensen actually had to deflect the blade in real time to avoid injury. God, it's even more badass when it's unscripted.
Setting time to target, 2 minutes, 15 seconds.
2:15, that's impossible.
File attack point. Mavericks inbound. Bombs away.
Okay, so we've just completed a holy trinity with a 3 for 3 on Tom Cruise films. Well, I had to include the test scene run from Top Gun Maverick because, like, come on, it would be criminal to leave this one out, wouldn't it? First, a man comes up with a module that's nearly impossible to pull off, and then when everyone else dismisses it, he decides to do it himself. It's the best way to show your haters how it's done, and Maverick leaves everyone speechless with a test run executed so flawlessly that even Magneto wouldn't have had it any other way. It just goes to show that an OG will always remain the benchmark for those who follow in his footsteps. They say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but if the tricks are as badass as this, is there really a need to learn something new?
He's the fastest man alive.
Come on!
Oh, shit.
I did speak about my love for Asian action movies earlier, so I'm sure you may have expected to see Donnie Yen feature somewhere. Before he joined the John Wick crew, our man was busy creating his own brand in the Ip Man series. This franchise contained martial arts that you would never get to see in a standard Hollywood flick, and the scene that portrays it the best is when he takes down 10 black belt fighters without any difficulty. Bro really shamed all the karate trainers of the world with one single scene. It's not even shown in an unrealistic manner. The man is actually calculating each and every step he makes as the fighters pile up on him together, and not one after the other like you normally see in American films. Hey, do you think I should start some martial arts classes and become TV man? Let me know in the comments below. I might be a die-hard fan of the OG Mad Max films, I'll admit that Fury Road gave us some epic action sequences. The highlight for me has got to be the sandstorm scene where Max is desperately trying to hang on to dear life. We all know what happens in it, but more importantly, did you know that the CGI here is minimal? Yeah, that's right, a lot of scenes from this movie were shot to be as realistic as possible, and it only goes on to prove that modern action films don't have a CGI problem when it comes to captivating the audience. Even here, the camera barely leaves the action for a few seconds before it's back to showing us the deadly sandstorm. I'm so glad George Miller came back to direct this one. Leave it to Quentin Tarantino to give us an overdose of violence while still making it look like it's straight out of a comedy. Django Unchained was a vitalizing burst of energy, especially when you consider the Candyland shootout scene. Whether it was Leonardo DiCaprio's Calvin or Christoph Waltz's Dr. Schultz, nobody was spared apart from the titular Django, and the gore factor was cranked up to 1,000 with the way we saw all those shots being fired and guts spilling out everywhere. Man, the censor board must have been pulling their hair out while reviewing this sequence, eh? Like, how do you even direct something as chaotic as that? I guess that's why they call these guys the masters of cinema, right?
Django! You uppity son of a... Yeah!
Here's another Tarantino flick with another blood-soaked scene. The Kill Bill films are fondly remembered for being totally ridiculous because of the presentation and lack of logic. But then again, these were the same reasons as to why the films worked, right? Uma Thurman needs no introduction even for a Tarantino film, considering she'd already come off the success of Pulp Fiction. Her redemption arc as the bride can be best understood in the battle against the Crazy 88. Yep, she takes down all of those fighters in such ludicrous fashion that you can't help but admire the process. I've said it earlier, so let me say it once more. Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned.
This is what you get for f***ing around with your Yakuzas! Go home to your mother!
Come on now, did you really think John Wick wasn't going to show up in my top 5? Well, here he is at number 5 in a scene that gives us a refreshing take on the typical shootout. I know gunfights are generally exciting to watch, but it does get saturated at some point, which is why the overhead perspective here in Chapter 4 was a unique and awesome way to portray it. Now, I'm sure you might be thinking that this sequence feels as if you're watching a video game. Well, you're not wrong, because the director took major inspiration for this scene from a game called the Hong Kong Massacre. See, your boy does his research thoroughly, doesn't he? I mentioned this film earlier, so you could have taken it as a hint that it was going to show up at some point. The real reason why I've placed the final showdown at number 2 isn't because of the nicely directed shootout, it's because of the psychology at play. Money admits to his faults and presents himself as a vulnerable man, yet here he is turning the tables against Little Ball and a dozen other men who can easily take him down. This is when character comes into play, and it's exactly what helps Money emerge victorious in an otherwise ferocious scene. Being a badass is more of a state of mind rather than just showing off physical prowess, you know? That's why Clint Eastwood is a modern day legend. Doesn't get any more grander than this. The final battle from the Two Towers is living proof that the Lord of the Rings franchise could flawlessly execute scenes of such massive scales. Every single moment here is worthy of praise, whether it's the initial attack, the tumultuous barrages, or even Gandalf's entry and the final charge. You want to know why I love it so much? It's because both sides showcase great awareness and tact even in the middle of the fight. No one is willing to back down, and each side comes harder when they're hit with a setback. Endgame might have come close to replicating a feeling such as this, but I don't know if we're ever going to be treated to spectacles like this ever again. Hope you liked the video. Please subscribe to the TV Regent, and here's another one that you'll enjoy.